The Super Mario franchise is huge and famous all over the world. Because of that, many animated shows and movies make references to it. Do you know the incredible Mario Easter eggs hidden in other productions? Bluey is a cartoon that loves Easter eggs, and some of them include references to other franchises, so it would be impossible that among so many detail-packed episodes, none of them would reference Super Mario. In the episode Movies, Bandit is taking his daughters to watch a movie at the theater. On the way there, they pass by several posters. One of those posters shows a dog princess wearing a pink dress, which looks a lot like Princess Peach, the one Bowser is crazy about marrying. In the amazing world of Gumball, the reference is even more obvious. 8, that 8-bit character who looks like a Space Invaders monster and constantly references video games, says he has an uncle who likes karts, stars, and princesses, exactly like Mario. Gumball gets excited to meet Mario and runs toward him as if he were inside a Super Mario Bros. Gameplay scene, but he ends up disappointed when he meets 8's uncle. His name really is Mario, but he's just a guy who happens to look a lot like the character from the games. It's amazing that they actually had the courage to do that, right? But this is only the beginning of the 21 references to Mario Brothers in other cartoons and movies. And for you who made it this far, we have a special invitation. Click the join button down below and become part of our exclusive group of subscribers. We have 3 plans for you to choose from. You can become a Wave Fun member and use our badges on your profile and special emojis in the channel's video comments. Or you can become a Wave Plus member and get early access to our videos and priority replies in the comments. But if you want access to our exclusive members-only videos and polls, you can become a Wave Max member. Starting at $2.99, you can become the newest member of Cinewave. Click now and get even closer to us. The amazing world of Gumball has made other references to Mario, which is expected since this series loves making jokes about absolutely everything. A great example happens when we see Nicole's past, when she participated in a fighting tournament as a child that looked a lot like the Dragon Ball World Martial Arts Tournament. Among several other Easter eggs, the scene shows that one of young Nicole's opponents was a giant turtle identical to Bowser. Going back to 8, did you know he can perform video game cheat codes in real life? While in games we have to press buttons in a certain order to activate a code, 8 can do it by performing movements in the correct sequence. And one of those codes creates a yellow block that releases money when 8 hits it. We don't even need to say that this block is basically the same one Mario hits to collect coins and power-ups, right? B-A. Another very curious code used by 8 makes him start glowing in a colorful tone, making him invincible and able to defeat anyone with a single touch. These are exactly the same powers Mario and Luigi receive when they use the Superstar power. Especially considering that this involves 8, it's way too much of a coincidence not to be an intentional reference. Sonic has always been considered Mario's rival in the video game world, so it's actually ironic that Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, made a very direct reference to the plumber. At the end of the first movie featuring the blue hedgehog, Dr. Robotnik gets trapped in another dimension full of mushrooms. This world is an adaptation of the Mushroom Hill Zone map from the game Sonic and Knuckles, but it also serves as a reference to the Mushroom Kingdom, Mario's home. And this becomes even clearer because Sonic makes it very clear that he doesn't want to go to that dimension and shows his disgust for mushrooms, which feels like a playful jab at his rivalry with Mario. If there's a movie packed with video game references, it's Wreck-It Ralph, since the entire film is about video games and many characters from incredible franchises make appearances. One of them is Bowser, Mario's arch-enemy. He appears in the villains meeting that Ralph attends, which makes perfect sense because Bowser is certainly one of the most classic villains in the entire gaming industry. Did you also think this reference in Wreck-It Ralph was really cool? If so, comment down below #Bowser in honor of the greatest villain in Super Mario. The funny thing is that even though we can see several incredible characters in Wreck-It Ralph, like Sonic, Super Mario unfortunately doesn't appear, at least not in the most conventional way. That's because one of the characters in the movie is a bartender who looks strangely similar to Mario. Some people believe that Nintendo refused to lend the rights to use the plumber's image, which led to him being replaced by this character instead. Teen Titans Go, just like Gumball, is completely focused on absurd humor. So of course the show makes jokes about all kinds of things, and jokes involving Super Mario have been made here more than once. One particularly dark moment happens when Beast Boy and Cyborg are thrown deep inside a cave, and the lifeless bodies of Mario and Luigi appear in the background. Yes, the Mario brothers suffered a cruel fate in that reality. Now, a slightly lighter joke appears in the episode where the Titans hold a competition to make milk mustaches. Everyone creates pretty funny mustaches, but Robin goes above and beyond by making Mario's mustache and imitating him perfectly. The next reference will make you realize that Robin doing this impression wasn't a coincidence at all, because he might actually be a big fan of the famous Plumber Heroes franchise. As if that wasn't enough, there's also an episode where the Titans enter game simulations to train their skills. Robin once again makes a reference to the plumber because the game he enters is a 2D platformer where the mission is to rescue a princess, travel through pipes, and defeat enemies by jumping on their heads. Do we really need to point out the similarities with the classic Super Mario games? When we talk about animated comedy series that love referencing other franchises, The Simpsons will eventually have to be mentioned. Both Mario and Luigi appear in one episode of the show, but inside Bart Simpson's imagination, and they didn't come alone because Donkey Kong and even Sonic appear alongside the brothers. And we can already tell you that this was far from the only time the Nintendo franchise ended up being referenced in the show. They even appeared again, and once again it was inside Bart's imagination. When the boy desperately wanted to have a brother, he dreamed about a land of brothers, and it's in this imaginary world that Mario and Luigi appear, which actually makes perfect sense. They are the most famous pair of brothers in the gaming world, so they definitely deserve to live in the land of brothers. After all, they are known as the Super Mario Brothers for a reason. But tell us, would you like to be the brother of Mario and Luigi? In another episode of The Simpsons that explores the concept of the multiverse, we see yet another reference to the franchise, but this time it isn't Mario who appears. In the scene, several alternate versions of Mr. Burns, Homer's evil boss, show up. One of these variants is a monstrous version of him that looks like Bowser and fights against a pixelated version of Homer. That's right, The Simpsons, without a doubt, aren't joking around when it comes to making jokes involving Super Mario Bros.
Don't forget, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you never miss any of our videos.
Have you ever watched Gravity Falls? A lot of strange things happen in that show, and the episode Fight Fighters is no exception, because a video game literally comes to life in it. You already know where we're going with this, right? In the episode's post-credit scene, we see a video game version of the town of Gravity Falls, where the story takes place, with the main characters turned into playable characters that can be selected by the player. Then Mabel says, "It's me, Mabel," which is a hilarious reference to the plumber's classic line, "It's a me, Mario."
The cartoon Mad was an adaptation of the magazine of the same name, which is known for its very sharp humor and for parodying pretty much everything possible, and the animated version stayed very faithful to that idea. So yes, Mario was also parodied here, and in a pretty dark way. He appears briefly and crushes a Goomba just like he always does, but the problem is that the other Goomba's reaction is surprisingly realistic. The little creature looks shocked and deeply sad, making anyone feel sorry for him and even a little angry at Mario. Could this be what actually happens after the plumber defeats an enemy and simply moves on with his adventure? It's not always the main Super Mario games that get referenced. The Mario Kart games are fun and loved by almost everyone, so of course there would be Easter eggs related to them. That's exactly what happens in Amphibia, when there's a race that looks a lot like Mario Kart, especially when a character throws a blue shell at Anne. The thing is that one of the most famous and feared items in Mario's Kart games is the blue shell, which chases the player who is in first place and hits them with no chance to dodge it. Still in Amphibia, a character who looks almost identical to Mario appears when Sprig becomes a superhero and offers him pizza. We're starting to believe that the people involved in the production of Amphibia really like Super Mario Bros. And included these Easter eggs as a tribute to the hero of the Mushroom Kingdom. Clarence makes Mario appear when no one was expecting it at all. When Clarence and Sumo are watching a wrestling show on television, we can notice that one of the wrestlers looks incredibly similar to Mario for absolutely no specific reason. And as if that weren't enough, the other wrestler is also wearing a hat in Mario's style, as if he were some kind of alternate version of Luigi, or maybe even Waluigi, Luigi's evil counterpart, since both that wrestler and Waluigi wear purple caps. Then again, maybe we're overanalyzing things a bit too much for a Clarence reference. A great way to reference a video game character is through a scene where someone is actually playing a video game, and that's exactly what happens in the animated version of the series El Chavo, where Chavo plays a platform game that clearly looks like an alternate version of Super Mario Bros. It's a pixelated 2D platform game with visuals almost identical to the plumber's games, with the big difference being that the player character is Chavo himself instead of Mario. It's a very similar Easter egg to the one where Robin enters a game that we saw earlier in Teen Titans Go. No one will judge you if you don't recognize Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, because it's an older cartoon, but even back then we were already seeing references to Nintendo's most famous franchise. Two men
men wearing overalls, one red and one green, appear carrying a mirror in a certain episode. There's no way to ignore that they are obviously Mario and Luigi. The show didn't even try to hide that it's a reference. The best part is that it actually makes perfect sense for them to appear here. In the world of Foster's home, imaginary friends come to life, so they could very well be the imaginary friends of a kid who is a huge fan of Super Mario Bros. Could that actually be the case?
Enjoying it? Then click one of the 2 videos we left on the screen and keep going with us. See you next time!